Hi guys, this is Dr. Callahan for week 6 Friday. Happy Friday. Go ahead and pause the video and answer the following 3 questions for your warm-up blog. All right, you guys, so this is week 6 and we are just finishing up multiplying and dividing rational functions. We'll do that today. And then we're going to start just the introduction of adding and subtracting rational functions, which is a really, really hard topic. I know dividing and multiplying is probably difficult as well, but we're going to wrap it up today. I'm going to give you guys a little activity where you guys can actually pick your grade for this class, for this activity. Just keep in mind that your homework and also your quiz is due Sunday by 11 p.m. so I can update your grade on Wednesday. So make sure you're accessing that at home. In addition to that, if you're not happy with your grade because it's been updated since Wednesday, after school tutoring is probably the #1 thing. You can come see me. It'll be kind of a quick conversation. I tell you basically what you need to do to raise your grade. And just keep in mind your math Excel, if it's late, there's a 10 to 40% penalty. But everything that you guys do in class is also contributed to your grade, like your warm-up, exit ticket, guided notes, being present and attending regularly. Some of you guys do attend regularly, but you're sitting there looking at your cell phone the entire time. I'm not going to bother you because you're quiet, you know, and I'm like, you're a junior, you probably know what you're doing, but keep in mind, if you're just doing that, the highest grade you'll get in my class is a 55% because I don't literally have anything that you've turning in, you know, and you're not participating. So I just want to make sure you're not confused about that. If you've been absent, keep in mind that every single thing that we've done in class is on the YouTube channel. And so you have access to that. And there are 24 videos right there. And all the videos from week 1 all the way to week 6 is uploaded on that channel. So just make sure you guys are aware of all the resources that's available to you. So this week by Sunday, week 6 homework, week 6 Wednesday quiz, those are the 2 things. You have 10 questions for your homework, 8 questions for your quiz. So it's not like a lot of questions. It's generally 20 or less questions, you know, for both. Per week, okay? Because I'm not giving you guys tests in class. So your assessment is literally just the quiz on math Excel. So make sure you guys are up to that and doing that. So today we're going to start adding and subtracting rational expressions, but we're going to finish up multiplying, dividing expressions. We're just like maybe like a day and a half behind, but that's okay. We'll catch up eventually. So if you're absent from last class, this is what we did yesterday. Yesterday we started with multiplying and dividing rational functions. Does anybody need a copy of this? If you do, I have it right over here. You guys can go ahead and grab that and then watch the video so you can go ahead and keep up to date with it. And then also have you guys kind of practice a problem yesterday by showing your work on the colored paper. Is there one question here or any particular question you guys had difficulty with that you would like me to go over in class? Does anybody have any preferences? Any preferences at all? You don't have to be shy. Yeah. Is it okay? Yeah, go for it. Yeah. I'm just going to go ahead and go over number 13 because that one looks fairly complex. And so I'm going to just talk about that one. So just that one question. So if you have this paper with you, you might want to take it out so that way we can go over it together and that way you have it as well. Let me change the color of that. Okay, so here we go. All right, so this one is kind of crazy because you have like literally 3 fractions and they're all divided. Okay, so if it's divided, remember you're going to have to flip the reciprocal to change it to a multiplication. But first what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and factor it out. Okay, what times what gives me a -20, but when I add it together, gives me a +1. I can think about 4 and 5. Okay, but then one of them has to be a negative. And if it's going to be a +1, 4 is positive, the bigger number has to be negative. So that's the first thing that I do. Bottom denominator, there's nothing you could do. So just keep the x + 1 by itself. Then I'm going to move over to this one here. What number can I take out between 33 and 132? You probably need your calculator. So let me go ahead and bring up mine. So with my calculator, this is what I have. So I have 132 and 33. So let's try 132 divided by 33. Yeah, that actually goes in perfectly. It gives me a 4. So that means I could take 33 out. And if you're not sure, you can always just divide it. So let's put 33. And I also have an x. I'm going to take the x out. So then what goes back inside? I will have just an x right there and then minus 4. Then I go over to the next one, which is the next fraction, right? Or the next binomial right here. So what can I take out between an 8 and a 40? I know I could probably take out an 8. X goes back inside with a 5. Now let's focus in on the denominator. Over here, I could take out a 16, will be x plus 1. On the last side over here, I could take out a 11, which is just x plus 4. Okay, so once I have it like in this setup, you guys, and I factored everything, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that multiplication or division to a multiplication. So I'm going to have x plus 4, x minus 5 on top, x plus 1 on the bottom. Now I'm going to change that division to a multiplication. But then remember, you got to flip it. So then 16x plus 1 goes on top. 33x, x minus 4 goes on the bottom. Do the same thing with a third fraction right there. If I change it to a multiplication, I'm going to flip it. So 11x plus 4 goes on top. 8x plus 5 goes on the bottom. And then we can highlight anything that you see that's the same top and bottom, they cancel, like x plus 1, for example. And x, well, actually, no, I think that's about it. X plus 1. Yeah, I think that is a, oh, you know what? I made a mistake. Hold on a second. Do you see how it's a positive 1? So that needs to be a positive 5, negative, because the 1 is positive. So the bigger number has to be positive. So that was my fault. And so sometimes when you make little mistakes like that and nothing cancels, you're like, I think there's a mistake there somewhere. And that's totally fine. So then I can cancel x plus 5 right there. And then I can also cancel x minus 4 right there. And then I also see that I could probably cancel the 16 with the 8. Do you see that? Because 16 divided by 8 is going to give me a 2. So that's canceled. And I also see like the 11 right here and the 33. If I divide 33 by 11, it's going to give me a 3. So that's gone. And then 11 divided by 11 is just 1. Okay, so now let's think about what's left. I have a 2 on top. I have an x plus 1. Or I'm sorry, that's canceled. Just kidding. X plus 4. Yeah. So x plus 4. On the bottom, I have a 3, and that's it. So this is your answer for that question. Okay, so this is day 2 of multiplying and dividing rational functions. I'm going to give you guys an activity today in envelopes where you're going to pick your grades. I have my handout. You need to grab a color paper and then also highlighters. So before you guys do that, the first activity I'm going to have you guys do is you're going to pick your grade. Some envelope has 10 points, 20 points, 30 points, 40 points. Obviously, the 40-point question or 40-point envelope has more difficult questions on multiplying, dividing rational functions. It's your choice. You could pick whichever one of the 4 envelopes. Take the cards out and basically show your work on the color paper, and you're going to turn that in. I'm going to give you guys about 20 minutes in class to do that before we tackle plus and minus rationals. Sounds good, you guys? Okay, so come on up. Grab the handout, the color paper, the highlighter. So here's your highlighter. There's a handout there with your color paper. And then the envelopes, I think I'm just going to go ahead and put it right over here. So then you guys can go ahead and pick whichever one that you like. And the number of points is written on top of it. Obviously, the smaller points are going to be easier. But if you're like, I really need some extra credit this month, and I really need to boost my grade, then I will highly suggest to choose the harder ones. Okay, so come on up, you guys. So grab 1, 2, 3, and then all of them. Sorry. Right. Do you guys have any questions specifically as to which one you would like me to go over? Do you have like one that you're like, ooh, this is really difficult. I would like you to go over number 5 or whatever. Does anybody have a preference? 19 is a really good one. So I'm glad you actually picked that. So let's take a look at number 19, you guys. And while I'm going over number 19, if there's one in particular, like, oh, I don't know how to do this one either, feel free to tell me, and then I can go over that one with you as well. So number 19 is a multiplication one, and it is on factoring. Hold on a second, let's do this one more time. There we go, that's better. Copy, and let me paste it over here. Yeah, sorry, it's like a process. It takes a while to get everything set up correctly. Okay, but now that I have it, it should be good. There we go. Okay, so for number 19, you're going to be factoring the top and bottom. You don't have to do the reciprocal because it's a multiplication, you guys, so it's not division. So on the top, you ask yourself, what times what gives me a -5, but when I add it together, it gives me a -4. The only two numbers I can think of is 5 and 1, but then you have to think about the negatives, which can be a little bit tricky. Since the middle number is a -4, the bigger number must be a negative and the smaller number is a positive, because -5 plus 4 is a -4. -5 times 1 is a -5, so that one works. You apply that same concept on the bottom. So I just always like to put X and X first, and then I ask myself, what two numbers multiplied together gives me a +2? I'm thinking about 2 and 1, okay? But then it's 2 and 1, when I add them together, give me a 3. They do, but you have to be careful of the negatives. Since your middle number is a negative, you know that this number here has to be a negative, and the 1 has to be a negative, because negative times a negative is a +2. Okay, so that negative part of it, you have to, it's kind of like a little puzzle. So then I look over here on the second one. I only notice that there's an x squared and a 4, so it's like a binomial. So whatever number I put in there has to have a positive and a negative, because it's going to cancel the same number. And that's why you don't have like a middle number. Your middle number literally is a 0x. So what two numbers multiplied together gives me a 4. It's a perfect square root, so it's a +2 and a -2. Okay, and then the very last one here, you're going to go ahead and do X and X. So what times what gives me a -10, but when I add it together, it gives me a -3. I'm thinking about 5 and 2. And then you just have to be careful with the negatives, because the middle number is a negative. Bigger number has to be a -5. Smaller number is a +2, because -5 plus 2 is a -3. -5 times 2 is a -10. And now that I have this done, it comes to the fun part. This is where you use your highlighters. You don't need to divide anything, because it's a multiplication, so you don't have to flip anything over. So x plus 2 matches top and bottom. X minus 5, I have that top and bottom. X minus 2, I have this one top and bottom as well. And then that's it. All of those cancel. The only thing that is left, you guys, I'm boxing in red. These two are the only one that's left. So your answer is x plus 1 over x minus 1. And that is your answer for number 19. Does anybody have another number they would like me to go over before I have you guys continue working on this? Anybody else? Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys like another about 10 more minutes. So keep working on it. And then if you have a question, I can answer it. All right, so let's take a look at number 23, you guys. So for number 23, again, notice that this is a multiplication, so you don't have to do the reciprocal at the end. So we're gonna go ahead and just factor this out. So I'm gonna start off with an x and an x. And you ask yourself, what times what gives me a -8? But when I add it together, it gives me a 2. So I think about 4 and 2, because that multiply gives me an 8. But you got to be careful with the signs, because the middle number is a negative. You know, it has to be the bigger number. That's like a -4 and a +2. -4 times +2 is a -8, so that checks off. -4 plus 2 is a -2, so that works. Okay. Then I'm going to go over to the bottom. With the bottom, do you see how it's only 2 terms? Like there's no middle number. So this is going to be like a special case. 9 and 16 are perfect squares, right? So you know it's gonna be a plus and a minus because the plus and minus will cancel the middle number. And then square root of 9 is 3x. So 3x goes in the front. And then what's the square root of 16 plus and minus 4? And because the numbers are exactly the same, the middle number just cancels out. So you only have 2 terms. So that's how you do that one. Then let's take a look at the bottom of the second fraction. Again, 2 terms. And if you notice that, isn't 16 a perfect square? So you're gonna have a plus and minus. What's the square root of 16? 4. And that will work because, whoops, I put a plus and a plus and a minus. There we go. And because the plus 4 minus 4 cancels each other out. Then you look at the numerator, and this one is the one that's a little bit more complicated. You have to take that 3, multiply by that 8, and you create a little chart, okay? That's 24, middle number is 10. No negative number, so everything is positive. So what 2 positive numbers multiply together gives me a 24. But then when I add them together, it gives me a 10. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 plus 4 is 10. So your temporary answer is x plus 6 at x plus 4. The reason I say it's temporary because remember how you multiplied by that 3? Well, you have to balance it by dividing by 3 after you multiply it. Well, 6 divided by 3 is x plus 2. 3 does not go into 4, so you just move it to the front, and you get 3x plus 4. So you have x plus 2, 3x plus 4 for the second fraction. Now comes the fun part because you just basically match and highlight what numbers are the same top and bottom. So I see a x minus 4. I'm going to cancel that in yellow. I see a 3x plus 4. That's going to cancel in orange. And I think that is it. Trying to make sure I didn't make any mistakes. Yeah, that's it. That's all I can cancel. So then what's left, you guys? I'm just gonna box the ones that are left. And that is gonna be your answer. So for your answer, just on top, you're gonna write x plus 2. There's 2 of them. So there's a square. On the bottom, x plus 4, 3x minus 4. And that is your answer. All right, so we are officially done with multiplying and dividing rationals. If you're like, I'm still having some difficulty with this, you guys, that's okay. I mean, like, this is not an easy concept. So you need to, and especially since you guys have been like on distance learning and or, you know, half in person or whatever for the last 2 years. And I remember like 2 years ago, I think they said, stop teaching like any further towards like March because school closed down. And so that really does create a lot of hiccups for Algebra 2 teachers now. So you can go to the YouTube channel. I just uploaded yesterday's video. So you guys should have 25 videos now on there. And you do 25 videos. And if you look at the title of the videos, I include like the title of what we go over. Like yesterday was Thursday and this is multiplying, dividing rational functions, day 1. So watch the video and make sure you guys get caught up this weekend. If you're like, I'm still having difficulty factoring, then go to week 6 Wednesday because we went over like assessment and simplifying rationals and then so on and so forth before that. And if you're like, I haven't been here all month, well, guess what? You have all of the skills right here and you have everything that is video recorded, okay? Okay, so now what I'm gonna have you guys do is take a look at that white sheet of paper that you guys grabbed. We're not gonna finish that today, but we'll continue this on Monday. So don't lose that piece of paper. So it looks like this with a bunch of little stars. And I'm just gonna go ahead and get started with the first part on 9.5. So we're moving on to adding and subtracting rational expressions. We practice with adding and subtracting fractions. And remember, you always need to have a common denominator. But now you have letters kind of thrown into the mix, which makes it more complicated. So finding a common denominator. For monomials, monomials are like, for example, you have 3x over 6x squared. And let's say 2y over 12x, okay? Those are monomials. It's just one term. There's no plus or minus sign in between them, okay? For coefficient number, find the lowest common multiple. So if you take a look at that, coefficient is just a number. You have a 6 and you have a 12. What is your common multiple, or what is your common denominator in this case between 6 and 12? It will be 12, right? So then I just need to multiply the 6 by a 2 to get the 12. So then I have 12 on the bottom for both. For the basis, exponent, take the most, or take the highest exponent. So when you look at the x's, you have x squared and x. So which one is your common denominator? It is going to be x squared. You always take the highest x, which means my second one here doesn't have enough x's. So I'm going to multiply an x top and bottom to make sure that I balance it out with an x squared. I'm not even going to talk about binomials and trinomials today. So today we're just going to talk about monomials. We're just going to practice with that. So once again, for the numbers in the denominator, you want to find the common number and then multiply it to get to the common number. Like in this case, the common number is 12. So 6 half the times 2 to get to a 12. With your exponent, like the letters, you always take the one with the highest power. Like this 12x here is missing an x, so I multiply x top and bottom to balance it to an x squared. Okay, so now let's take a look at examples 1, 2, and 3, you guys. Okay, so these are all monomials. There's no plus or minus signs. It's just a bunch of monomials. Okay, I'm gonna go over number 2 with you guys. So actually, you know, I'm gonna go over number 3. We'll start something easy. Let's start with number 3. For number 3, you have x minus 2 and an x. What is your common denominator? Well, your common denominator has to include both of them. So it's gonna be x times x minus 2. That's your common denominator. So then what that means is your goal is to multiply both of those fractions to get to that common denominator. So when I look at my first fraction, which is right here in yellow, and I'm highlighting in yellow, what is the denominator missing to get to a x minus 2? I have the x minus 2. What I'm missing is an x. So I'm going to multiply the x top and bottom. So then my new equation here will be x squared over x times x minus 2. Okay. Do I have the common denominator? Yes, I do. It's an x minus 2. So check, that one's done. And then I take a look at my second fraction. My second fraction is an x on the bottom. So what am I missing on that one? Because remember, your common denominator is x minus 2. I'm missing an x minus 2. So I'm going to multiply x minus 2 top and bottom. And I know you're thinking, why is it top and bottom? Because isn't the top and the bottom, if they're the same, it's 1? You can multiply anything by 1, and that's not illegal. You know, it's legit. You can definitely do that. So then my new equation for the second one is 2 times x minus 2 over x minus 2. Do they now both have common denominators? Yes, they do. That is how you find your common denominator. Let's just go backwards. Let's take a look at number 2, okay? For number 2, if you take a look at that one right there, what is your common denominator? And make sure you guys are copying down the notes so that way you guys know how to do this, especially after this class next year. Depending on which class you picked, if you're planning on going to like introduction to pre-calculus or pre-calculus for trigonometry, you'll be doing a lot of this stuff. And especially if you're planning on majoring something that's math related, like in college, you definitely want to make sure you know how to do this. The last 2 years has been really hard on math students because if you're not in class, you know, you can't really learn the material. So this year has been a little bit difficult for a lot of us math teachers trying to get you guys caught up with the stuff that, you know, that we haven't been learning or, you know, we're forgetting. All right, so looking at 7 and 3, what's a common number that both 7 and 3 can divide into? I'm thinking, okay, 7 times 1 is 7, 3 doesn't go into 7. 7 times 2 is 14, 3 doesn't go into 14. 7 times 3 is 21. And guess what? Both of them goes into 21. So my common denominator is 21. Now I got to take a look at the letters, okay? I see a to the fifth, a to the second. And remember, in your notes, you always take the biggest power. So a to the fifth is your common denominator. Then you look at the b squared and b. Which one's the bigger one? B squared, okay? And then I have a c to the fourth. I have to include that. You always include all the letters with the biggest power. That's my common denominator. And now I have to start multiplying these two fractions to make sure that I get it. Like, let's take a look at the first fraction. That's your first fraction right there. What's missing here? I'm missing a 3. I'm not missing any A's. I'm not missing any B's, but I am missing a C. So I'm going to multiply 3 C to the fourth, top and bottom. Okay. And then when I multiply that, I'm just going to get 3c to the fourth times a plus 1 over 21 a to the fifth b squared c to the fourth. And you want to make sure you check, does my common denominator match my common denominator on top? Yes, it does. So check that. That one's done correctly. Then you want to take a look at your second fraction, which I'm highlighting in green right here. And you ask yourself, okay, what is it missing? 3 times what gives me a 21? Probably 7. So there's going to be a 7 top and bottom. Do I have enough A's? No, I have a to the third, or h squared, so I need a to the third, top and bottom. Do I have enough B's? I do not, so multiply B, top and bottom. But I do have enough C's, so I don't need to multiply any C's. So what is my new fraction then? On the bottom, 21 a to the fifth, b squared c to the fourth. On top, 4 times 7 is 28. 1a, 3a is 4a's, and then b. And then again, you can always check, do I have a common denominator? Yes, I do. That's it. I know this stuff is difficult, you guys, and I understand that, but you still have to make sure you're trying to make sure that you're understanding this so you can move on to the next level of math. Okay, and we'll practice more with this on Monday. Your exit ticket today is right here. So grab your cell phone and your QR code and answer the question. It's only about like 5 questions, not very long, but you guys have about 5 minutes. So you do have time to do that in class. Or sorry, 3 minutes. So you have time in class. 3 minutes for 5 questions. And again, I just make sure that you have your name on it. And as long as you do it, you get a check plus for the exit ticket.